unpasteurized milk, so raw milk, is illegal to sell point blank where I'm from in Canada. In the UK, I understand that you can sell raw milk in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, not Scotland, right?
Correct.
Provided that the raw milk is sold directly on the premise of the farm that's registered for that, and at farmers markets? Or?
There's a few strange rules. Yes. Okay. So I can go to a farmer's market and sell it, and I can also post it.
Right. Or people can come here and buy it from you directly.
Directly, yeah, right. Indeed. But I couldn't give to you to go and sell to somebody else. I couldn't even give to you to go and deliver to somebody else.
So like I couldn't buy that for my cafe and then sell it off to another. And the same way that you couldn't necessarily, you wouldn't, it's not legal to sell it to a Tesco or something like that.
No.
I think in the US it's similar to the UK. I'm sure there's like different rules depending on the
different states, different rules.
Yeah, where you can buy the raw milk directly on site. How come, why is it like that? Or is this a bit too much of a politically charged question?
Why is it like that? It comes from bad science. So what went wrong with raw milk is the industrial period, so the 1800s. When they started having industrial revolutions, they started having people congregate in towns. They needed food, so they couldn't bring the milk from the country into the town before it went off, before it went sour. So what they did, they took the cows into the town. There's no grass in town. So they were feeding them bakery waste and stuff from breweries and just catering waste, basically. Well, that made the cows ill. So within raw milk, there's natural pathogen inhibitors if the cows are healthy. If the cows are on a species-appropriate diet, that will be a healthy product. As soon as they started feeding them in an inappropriate diet, the milk started to become bad. It didn't have the properties that it did from the country. So instead of working that out, they just decided Louis Pasteur decided that he had the answer, which at the time made perfect sense because then they were ensuring the health of the people that were consuming the milk because it was bad milk and it was making the people ill. Well, we understand much more about milk. We understand how to cool it now. We're much more efficient at cooling. We're much more efficient at understanding. The farmers understand like the pathogen and how they can infect the milk. So we're far more careful. So they're basing the rules on science from 100, 120 years ago, where actually the science now is completely different. The food is actually, if you want to look at it statistically, it's safer than pasteurized milk.
Right.
But we're not allowed to say that.
Right.
We're not even allowed to say there's any health benefits of it because we have no scientific peer-reviewed data because we're all individual little farmers just doing it. We've got loads of anecdotal evidence, but that doesn't equate to being able to make a claim. So the reason it won't change is because they are so scared that they will make a decision that
would be a mistake.
And the irony is because there's so few raw milk producers, if there is ever an outbreak of something, the media focuses on it.
Right.
Whereas you don't hear about the Chinese restaurant that might have poisoned 30 people 5 miles away from you because it's happening in every town.
Well, I think just keeping it close to dairy, because wasn't there like a recall on a particular yogurt or something at some point and it made the news? But I think, when it's almost like you buy things commercially, you don't even remember there are farmers behind that and there's a whole system. You just think the yogurt or the milk that comes in the carton and you're not really associating it to the realities of the farmers behind that.
And the realities of life are there will be instances that go wrong.
Yeah, you can get E. coli from lettuce, right?
Campylobacter from lettuce is one of the biggest sources of food contamination. But because it happens so much, it's not focused on.
Right.
Salad is probably the worst food unless you actually have your own knowledge about how it's actually produced. Some of these supermarkets give you free, not supermarkets, restaurants give you free salad when you go in, don't they? Take a salad bowl. Well, when was that produced? You don't know. You have no idea. And if it does make somebody ill, then it's not necessarily reported in the same way it does if raw milk is the big bad ogre that's about to come out and bite you.
It feels like you guys are a bit like the scapegoats.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Very easy to point a finger at somebody that's made something. And there have been instances, not many, where I think there was one instance where somebody died, but then their immune system may have been compromised before you even started that.
And like you said, and it's true, that could happen anywhere in any industry with any kind of food. And was that so? To make the decision to produce raw milk and raw milk products, was that ever a debate then for you? Because there are hoops to jump through, and
Not for me.
no, because you believe in the message. And I know you were telling me this a little bit earlier, because I asked you how many raw dairy producers you reckon there are.
I think it's just over 100 now.
Were there more of you before or less?
A lot, yeah. I think it was 186 when we started.
Okay, when you say we started, that's how long?
When we started actually selling raw milk.
Okay, and
There's a published list.
Okay, I see. What do you think caused the decline?
So they've changed the rules, so you have to have a food safety management system now. And as farmers, we're not very good paper workers. We like to do the thing, unless
don't play into the stereotype now.
We want to farm. That's what we want to do. Our passion is cows, not paper.
Yeah.
And although we've got to go through all those processes, you probably need somebody on the farm that's capable of. And there'd be a lot of people that just say that's too much for us to. Too many hoops, too much stress for us to go through. So it's turned a lot of people off, and they just stopped. Yeah. Which is sad.
But you were telling me that you were starting to see that number come back up a little bit?
So we're seeing more micro dairies.
Okay. Oh, what's that?
So people with 1 or 2 cows.
So for their own personal...
They start for their own personal use.
And
then, yes, the offshoot is that you always have too much milk when a cow calves, you have too much milk, so you can't drink it all yourself. So then you start to try and sell. And, there's lots of people like me that have the same passion. If you've got a child that's ill, you will need to go and search out raw milk for skin complaints or digestive issues, eczema, asthma. And when you've done that and you find the value of it, I can see why people are then hooked into actually maybe wanting to do that themselves. Some people travel miles. I got one guy who travels 2.5 hours to come here.
Wow. That is probably not super eco-friendly, but...
It's not. And actually, like I was talking to you, like I said earlier, my Narnia is to have farms like us around every village, around every single town. There should be enough of us that you don't have to travel more than 15 minutes. Don't want to start 15 minutes cities or anything, but the food, your food sources, majority of food sources should be close, because that's a logical way. It's bonkers especially milk. I mean, if you think milk is like 90% water, a tanker is just transporting water up and down the motorways to processing plants and then taking it back to the shops. And then people have to drive then to pick it up, and the food miles are just absolutely bonkers. I mean, years ago, this farm would have produced, I don't know, maybe 30 gallons, and it would have been taken on a cart up the high street, and people would have come out and they would have taken a jug out every day.
Well, it's not like that anymore.
It's not, but it could be.
It could be.